can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello everybody, welcome. This is Spectrum Radio 1. I am your host Edmund. On Spectrum tonight we have our Friday panel reviewing the week. What will we be looking at? We'll look at the state of security in Uganda. Insecurity continues to disturb the minds of security organs, with reports now indicating that the UPDF is probing reports of possible rebel groups in Uganda. This week we had news that also indicated that terrorists could have sharpened their acts by recruiting young Muslims from this country. Some 30 clerics were arrested and are being investigated for missing children. Lieutenant General Kali Kaihura, the Inspector General of Police, reacted by carrying out a reshuffle for all of these police officers. There had also been an incident in Chira division that led to that happened just before this reshuffle. 80 youths were arrested in the neighborhoods. We'll be talking about that. NAD's program, why is it likely to be scrapped? According to the president, he spoke to people went to visit him in his farm in Rashura. He said NADs could be scrapped. Why would that happen? We'll also talk about the marriage and divorce bill. MPs who have been consulting saying most people don't like it that much. We'll also talk about the Kenyan poll petition. Tomorrow the Supreme Court will rule on the petition that contested the election results. Our guests tonight, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL and commentator on social and political affairs. You're most welcome, Nicholas.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Edmund. Good evening to my fellow panelists and to all the listeners.
I also joined by Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Uganda representative of the East African Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Lydia.
Habari za jioni, our listeners, and I wish you a very happy festive Easter season.
We're also joined by Honorable Charles Romoshana. Honorable. He's a former head of political intelligence at State House and a former Constituent Assembly delegate. You're most welcome, Honorable Charles Romoshana.
The Almighty God is great.
Wait. He said he's a man.
The honorable title does not wither, apparently. We're also joined by Mr. Molson Bakakamba, Executive Director of the Agency for Transformation. You're most welcome, Mr. Molson Bakakamba.
Thank you, Edmund, and good evening, dear listeners and viewers.
Honorable Lydia, what exactly is the root cause of these new rebel reports?
I think Romshana should be there. I want to pass the baton to Honorable Charles.
There is something which there is a new development. The initial one was the killing of sheikhs, because they killed them. They killed more than 10 sheikhs. They also killed businessmen who are Muslims. Then they also, among other schools they banned was Kawempe, Muslim school, I think several times. Now they are arresting them. In other words, the point they are trying to make is that insecurity in Uganda is synonymous with Islam.
Who is trying to make that?
The ones who are arresting. Because the trend is that they have been victims. But then when it comes now to cracking down on the alleged causes of insecurity, you now arrest sheikhs according to your topic. This means now the pointer is that. But when you study the history, and if you have to follow the NRA, because the ruling government was also partly a cause of insecurity in 1980, they waged war.
We know that for 5 years.
Yeah, they waged war. But how many Muslims did they have? The vice chairman of NRM was the only Muslim that is known. I don't know of maybe Ahmed Sebuya.
Moses Ali.
No, that's West Nile. Yeah. That's West Nile. Maybe Sebuya, Ahmed Sebuya, but he was sick.
Hussein Kashirinyi.
Yeah,
Ahmed Kashirinyi, the father.
Hussein is the son.
Right.
Yes, Ahmed Kashirinyi. But if you look at the commanders, that's still a small minority. So why is it that whenever there is insecurity, the pointer is immediately for the mosque, and yet the history shows that participants have come from different regions. In other words, why we because for the West it's understood understandable. I mean, one can argue with radical Islam. Are we seeing radical Islam here and radical Islam against who? Because we don't have serious conflicts between Islam and Christianity here in Uganda.
We have Jamil Mukulu, don't discount that.
Yes, but if ADF is a terrorist organization, how come Jamil Mukulu goes to European countries? How come? They allow him to move in European countries. And in any case, by the way, if this was ADF, by now they would be accepting it's ADF. They've kept quiet about it, and so one other area which one needs to study. But what is critical is that families are being decimated. Robberies initially, even villagers know that a robber doesn't come to, if you don't disturb him, if you don't look him into the face, he will take his man and go. But here you now have cases where they rob and get money. And you can't get money unless you have got prior intelligence. So at what time do they kill? Do they kill after they have gotten the money, or they kill before they get the money? And if they kill the household before they get the money, then how do they get the money? That's another area which we need to study. And then the police within a minute give a statement, land wrong, but there is no case where they have indicated to us which land. At least I need to have one or two cases where they say there was the wrong of a specific plot of land or piece of land. Because if that was, villagers always know. Now, like the case of Kasesa, I was reading the press release, they arrested that it was business rivalry. What was the history? What was, so these are things we need to study. But as a matter of fact, now like my neighbor, there is a neighbor of mine there who was shot dead, and the police rounded up more than 80 youths apparently. Yeah, around 100. But then how do they relate? Because according to eyewitnesses, this was one gunman who came, shot and left. And then now you go and pick people on Nudo, playing chess, playing draft, playing cards.
Yeah, I don't disorderly. They could be.
Yeah, but that's different. Why don't you arrest them for a different arrangement? You can arrest them for accidents, you can arrest them for noise. But if you are arresting them, if the arrest is precipitated by this kind of murder, then they should do. Otherwise, it ends up being a panda guy. So, and in my view, that's why it's dominating debate, because it has refused to go away. And the shepherding of police commanders, yes, but how do they become police commanders? How do they become police commanders? We also need to study this. A person comes out of training, because I used the police commanders used to see when I was those your brothers, they find an Opiyo at a police station, and the guy was also your brother. I'm sorry for the Ugandans. It could be a stupid joke. I mean, there is one another woman. Someone was reading the news on Radio Uganda, and he said, probably, you know the way you talk, and the old woman said, you mean these fellows are still around? Who was playing So now, so you come from school, from the university, you go for training, and within 3 or 5 months, you are a district police commander. You have even never commanded a 9-9. You have not even been an OC.
There are cadets who are still undergoing training.
Yes.
Who are now heading police stations.
Yeah, police stations. Yeah. Not even, and within a second, you know, some who are district police commanders. And it takes a lot of responsibility, because you are deploying guns to go and combat guns. So now it's a period of accountability.
You pay back time.
No, accountability. Those fellows you deployed equal to the task. Because to be a district police commander means that you would have risen through the ranks. Yeah, it means you must know the ground. Then the funding. Because I remember there was a time when Katumba Wamara was fundraising for money for police patrol vehicles. Yes, and now they provide them vehicles. Are they giving them fuel? They gave them motorbikes. You saw them everywhere. But do they have spare parts? Do they have fuel? So it's a little bit problematic.
What should we do?
Rosai.
Pray to the God Almighty. Nicholas, what's your own reading of these these rebel reports? Do we have rebels or do we not have rebels?
Well, I can't say yes or no answer to your question. I can just say no and stop. But really, the excuse of using Muslims as a source of insecurity is not just a Ugandan problem, it's a global problem. And it's a very unfortunate situation. When I was coming here, I was having coffee at a coffee shop, and a young boy from maybe who has recently converted into Islam. Well, was telling me in the parking lot about his training, how he was taken to train in Arabic, to read the Quran. That's a normal practice in Islam, where kids are trained in the principle of Islam from the age of 5 to the age of 13. Now, if an imam or a sheikh is doing that, to interpret that to mean recruitment into rebellion, in my view, would be misconstruing the entire process. So first, I think it is an excuse. I think it's a simple way of just washing away the failures of our security agencies. What I think is happening in Uganda is there's a degeneration of security situations in our country for really major reasons. For a very long time, all of us know that we've had very informal security apparatuses that are formed, disbanded, given guns, people are armed, you have Wembley, you then dismantle Wembley, you call it RRU, you call it whatever name, and all these ragtagged, uneducated folks who you give guns to, and then demobilize, go away, filter into society, sometimes even with their guns, could be the reason we have gotten to this point. It's a complete mess in how the security sector is being managed. But secondly, also, the control of private arms. The police, in theory, are supposed to control private arms in the hands of private people. They should issue a license, they should issue permission to all the licenses.
Private security companies.
Yeah, and companies. But in actual sense, the amount of private arms in the hands of private or non-formal security or operatives or civilians, if you take account, it actually could be the reason we are in this kind of situation. I've spent the whole morning at a police station, in Ginger Road, where I found 2 policemen being charged for neglect of duty because, these are SPCs, uneducated, ill-trained folks, given guns.
They're called special police
constables. Yes, deployed in this town, and then one of them got drunk, had a suspect at Nakawa Markets. The suspect untied himself, removed the gun. That gun was used in the murder. This policeman is now being detained and being tried for the murder. So you have, all sorts of folks being recruited, being given guns, being armed, all sorts of private individuals with pistols, with guns all over. It actually could be the reason the security forces has just simply lost control. And this is a serious concern for the personal safety of individuals in this country. Look at the number of murders in this town. In some cases, no one is even arrested. Where do these guns come from? What is the police doing to investigate some of these cases? For as long as we don't have explanations for all of these murders all across the country, you go to Gulu every day, you go to West Nile every day, there are cases of people being gunned down, and you just can't have an explanation. I think to just rush and say insecurity, terrorists, I think it's to cover their own weaknesses. We know now for a fact that the IGP on several occasions announced to Ugandans when terrorists went for training, when they came back, and hasn't arrested them. Surprisingly, some of these are opposition members. So to declare terrorism is to just incite fear, incite people to forget about the failures of our security sector. And if you see the head of Joint Intelligence, Kinyefuza, disagreeing in public space with the CDF, with the IGP, if you see the IGP and the Minister of Defense disagreeing on whether they're rebels or not, then you know there's a serious problem.
Uncoordinated movement.
A serious problem.
Morrison Raka Kamba, how serious is it?
Yeah, well, I'm not a security expert, but as a citizen, I also watch and say that guns have, all these guns that Opiyo is talking about, they have been around, you see, but it's for the past, 1 year or so when we've had increased incidents of, pockets of insecurity of, like that family, I think was it in Rakai, somebody went and killed the family, and I mean,
It was Raka in Kakuto.
yeah, so it was really extremely, sad to see, and very serious, a very serious situation. And this issue about, I understand Muslim, like another religion, it's a religion of peace, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very, if you've read the Quran, it's a very peaceful religion. And so I don't think there's just really targeting.
Well, but they talk about the jihad.
Yeah, but we also know that even within Islam, there are people they are bad people. I think it is Mamdan who wrote that book about good Muslim, bad Muslim, and there can be a good Protestant and a bad Protestant. So I think people, I mean, the targeting and the judgment should be based on facts. And but we know that constitutionally, it's the police that is supposed to investigate. So I still do believe that in spite of facing this situation, we shouldn't be very much sensationalist about it, because it has other serious impacts, especially on the economy, especially on the tourists. But what we should call for as citizens, that there should be swift action, swift investigations, and clear definition of facts. And we would want to see coordination, a country where security agencies are in charge and giving us updates as taxpayers and as citizens. That's really what I think. But otherwise, I don't want to speculate because I don't work in security agencies, and so I don't know.
All right. Well, Honorable Lydia.
Yeah, but you see, if you look at the security situation and then you narrow it only to Uganda, then sometimes you may miss the point. I've been in Kenya recently, and even in Tanzania. There are pockets of insecurity. In a taxi you can find somebody there's a bomb blast in a drinking place. You remember what happened in Isli, Nairobi? I mean, it was a truck and the whole area was cordoned off because there had been blasts. So I've seen our governments, not only in Uganda, there have actually been joint efforts to look at the ammunition, what they call the small arms corridors, and so it's not about Uganda alone. Maybe we may want to discuss the degree and also the way the messages come out to explain because people need to know whether we are security experts like Romshan or not. We need to know why there are blasts here and there, and what, to me more than anything else, what government is doing to secure people. So I think the coming out of the media and to the public by Wakina Kayihura and Chinifunza, well, it sounds a little more scary, but mainly Kayihura is to explain what the institution of the police that is mandated to secure people in the civil community, what they are doing about to secure our lives and our safety. To me, that's very critical, because if they were silent, I think it would be disaster. So they need to work more on the packaging so that we don't sound more vulnerable and so scared, and they work out behind the scenes how they can secure and get us back to our safety lives. Because I would like to wake up in the morning and be sure that I will get back to my bed. And the biggest benefit that this government and any mandate that can give your people is their security. But I want to say for certain that our region, especially the Great Lakes region, the 11 countries that neighbor the Great Lakes, we are prone to trafficking of small arms and light weapons. I know that our governments have efforts to rid the region out of those weapons, but they are there. Talk about disarmament in cattle corridors, talk about whatever, they even keep holding it and they ban those that they have collected, but they are still available. Now, why maybe Charles Romshana may give more detail to the why. I think it's important that our governments, first of all, keep coming out in the relevant state to explain and to give us the program on how they are tracking them. Because, I mean, we have obviously porous borders.
So you think this whole thing is basically rooted to the small arms trafficking?
Well, my humble opinion is that these blasts you are seeing, and the threats you see, you know, we have Al-Shabaab with us as a reality in the region, and that's my humble opinion.
Yes.
We have pockets of people who are armed, both maybe legally and illegal arms, but the fact is that we also have porous borders. We have porous borders. So for me, I don't want to isolate Uganda from what we are seeing, from what is happening in with our neighbors, and I cannot say that I cannot place that, you know, Ugandan has a unique issue because of what some of the leaders outside the police are saying. What I would like to hear as I conclude is, Edmund, is that I would like to see more joint messages from all the security agencies in Uganda. I would like to hear the same voice coming from Chinefunza with Kaihura, depending, because they are the people that are supposed to lead in agencies that secure Ugandans. That's what I would like to hear, because other places have this challenge. This challenge is not a Ugandan challenge alone, but other governments have institutions that are more civil and that are whose leader. I mean, if you are coming as a soldier, that are more civil and that deliver the messages to secure people in a more mature and in a more progressive manner.
Well, Tinyafuza is the conduct of intelligence services. So when he speaks, it's really the big gun, that has sounded.
Let me give you this.
He's the one at the top.
Let me give you this.
Charles Romashana, briefly,
Let me give you this message, my sister. Let me give you this message, my sister. That if the family of your neighbor has been decimated, or if families of your neighbors have been decimated, consider you as decimated. Actually, consider yourself dead. And two, that South Sudan government is a rebel government, came out of rebellion. Central African government has just been overthrown. Congo, there are many rebel groups. Even the government is there, came out of rebellion. So it is true with RPA in Rwanda, the Burundi one, the same case. Even this one, same case. So it's just a cycle.
Let's go for a break. This is Spectrum. We'll be back.
See, I said it's not a Uganda.
Communications Commission invites entries for the 3rd ASIA Awards, scheduled for June the 7th, 2013. Visit www.ucc.co.ug/awards for information on the categories and criteria. Deadline for entries is April the 30th, 2013. ASIA, ICT Innovation for National Development.
So I'm chilling at home with my crew. The boys are waiting to watch the game on the telly, but the chicks want to go to the beach. So how do we play it? A glance across the room. Eye contact is made. A plan is hatched. Pete will get some sand. Lots of it. Jeff will take care of the deco, Tim the entertainment, and I the clubs. And so we bring the beach to the apartment. If we can't go to the beach, we bring the beach to us. It's just how we do it.
It's not about where you're at. It's the difference you bring. Get a fresh take on things. Club is brewed longer for easier drinking. Brewed slower for great taste. Club, tastefully different. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pay for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414-340077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, reviewing the week, our guest, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also pundit on political and social affairs. He's also a senior official of the Uganda Law Society, but he doesn't speak for the society here on this show. Congratulations for becoming Secretary General. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Uganda representative at the East African Parliament. Honorable Charles Romashana, former Constituent Assembly delegate and former head of political intelligence at State House, and Mr. Morrison Wakakamba, executive director at the Agency for Transformation. Let's talk about
what is current about Romshan. Everything is former.
current panelist here on this show. Charles Wamushana, talk about the NADS program. President Museveni said this week, apparently was quoted as saying that this program has failed and is going to be scrapped. Where has NADS?
The reply I have from the villages that this NADS is a fraud.
We seem to have known that all along.
It's a fraud. We actually need to investigate it. They get 20. No, I mean it was. It's
the security angle.
No, that is why you don't use the religious one. Let's take this thing a little bit more serious. They take 20, like there is a parish I've called, they take 21 million shillings in a parish, which has 14 villages, i.e. 14 sales. Average, that's around 2 million shillings a sale. And they give 20,000 per farmer. That's the design. That each farmer gets 20,000 shillings. But the farmer is required to deposit 6,000. And the arrangement is that you must have not less than 10 farmers in a group. So that is 60,000. So they take away 60,000 from the village and then they give them 40,000. So really, from the village, they have taken 20,000. Forget about the money that came from government. They actually give them from what they collected in the village. So the villagers give 6,000 and of the 6,000 they give them 40,000. So the one that came from government is not even given to them. So we all one. We need to investigate where did this money from government go? Two, where did the balance from the village go? Because they have it. So it's a huge fraud. You cannot simply say I'm closing it and I'm going somewhere else. No, we must pursue you. We must pursue you because if from each farmers, from each sale of 10 people, you are taking away 20,000 because it's 40 and there is a balance of 20,000 from the sale of every 10 farmers. How much money have you collected from the Republic of Uganda? And where has it gone? We actually had that problem during campaigns, the 2000 and even this last campaign. Farmers protesting that. And not only have they even collected from these farmers, there are even programs where they collected from widows. Money that they collect from them in the hope of giving them, and they actually even don't give them. And there was a directive that they should return this money, and I'm not very sure that they returned it. So it's not a question of pronouncing that you are going to divert money from NADS and you give it to SACCOs. No, you must go and audit how much money goes from the farmers and return it with interest. So it's a huge fraud, much more serious than the Prime Minister's office and public service ghost pensioners think.
How big would you do? What kind
of billions? You see, you would rather steal from your consolidated fund. But here they have even gone beyond and stealing from the poor, and they are stealing from the farmers. Yes.
Morrison, you are an agricultural consultant.
I mean, Ramashan, I think is raising interesting issues, but I think I'll engage this on two fronts. One is the governance. I think the governance architecture of the agriculture and the policy itself needs to be again reimagined. Because if you look at NADS, for example, it's not a single spine extension system. Because you have an executive director who is based in Kampala but who has no power to appoint district NADS coordinators. They are appointed by the District Service Commission. They report to the CAO. So the executive director has no clear, the chain of command is not very clear. So, and district councils. And by the way, the NADS coordinator...
The district councils had no control?
Yeah, because you see, the system is again so skewed. So reporting and monitoring is really not clear. And because NADS is the program that has some resources within the district, that's why it is popular, that's why many people talk about it, and that's why we even know that there are problems in that program. And for me, really, a NADS coordinator up to now remains the most powerful official in a district. It's not the RDC, it's not the LOC5, because every time they are lining at his office to pick some fuel to move around, because for me, money and power, they go together. So
these are the justifications line up at the NADS coordinator.
Yes, because you see the way, because it's the only program that pushes more resources to the districts, you see, regularly. So at the end of the day,
but the man doesn't go to the village.
But I mean, all those are problems.
Don't line up for fuel.
So we must first of all resolve that governance issue and make sure that we have got an extension system that has a clear chain of command and clear reporting mechanism. That has not been there in NADS. Then the other aspect, sure. Then the other aspect we really need to look at is IFIPRI and the Auditor General, for instance, the report of 2008, of course some years back, NADS I think was in existence then by around, it was 8 years, because it started in 2000 or 2001, and had already spent about $800 million US. But the Auditor's General report, showed that of all that expenditure, only 31%, you see, was characterized as relevant expenditure or good expenditure. So meaning that the other part of the money, that's about almost 70 something percent, 64% or so, never reached the farm. So that's a very big
But if it's the other one, I don't even think it.
Then the other issue, Edmund, these listeners and viewers, we need to look at is, do we have an extension system that can help our farmers? I don't think so. Let's take an example. 2 years ago, the former executive director of NADS, Dr. Salim Nade, said that we have 1,600 extension workers across the country who are supposed to serve 4 million farmer households. So if those 16,000 extension workers were to work every day in order to reach the 4 million farmer household, it would take 6.9 years or almost 7 years to reach the farmers who need the advice, even if they worked on Christmas or they worked on Eid. So for me, the kind of extension system we have is again cosmetic. It cannot work in modern age. So some of us at the agency have been proposing, how do we use different tools, radios or to pass on information, mobile telephones, since most farmers have mobile phones, to pass on some message. So there has to be some new ways of reimagining our system. You see, I also don't agree that you expand NADS and you say you're going to pass money through SACCOs. SACCOs are not for purposes of extension. Extension is advice. SACCOs is for credit. It is for mobilizing savings and issuing credit. So those two things are not the same. So if you are to create a different system, certainly it would again not be SACCOs.
By the way, for information, NADS is a component of PMA.
Absolutely. And you see PMA,
but they have not emphasized the entire plan of PMA because there was money to steal.
I do agree. I agree with the charts that PMA had, I think, 7 pillars, and one of them was, agriculture extension, which is about information and advice. But the other pillar was on financial services for farmers.
Yes.
So now, the only pillar which was emphasized now was NADS, which moved very fast because I think they had a smart and an agile executive like NAD. They secured an act. So when they secured that act, now PMA collapsed, and NADS started trying to implement in a way that was not clear almost all the pillars. You've heard them, they have also been giving out money, credit and savings, and charging interest on some small loans they have been giving farmers, which was never at all their law.
No, but
sure.
I just wanted to have an input on what we call farmers. I think we need to define who farmers are.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it because I want to sound callous, but we need to get back as a country and get to know who a farmer is, because we need to know who is doing farming for the household and be able to segregate them from people who are doing farming both for households and for commercial, so that the rules of engagement suffice to serve those that are doing commercial farming and those that are doing subsistence farming. To me, that's very, very important before you even start advising, because I would like to know whether we have a catalog. This country must be zoned by policy, but also by management in terms of agriculture. I'm saying this because if you go to Kenya, I have to keep giving regional examples because we as a country are committed to being part of the region. You know for sure that if you want to do flowers, you get them in Naivasha for commercial. And if you want to do mahindi, maize, you go Eldoret. So the country has been zoned, and in the little areas where
you go Kericho.
You go to Kericho for tea, and the country has been zoned in northern areas where they have very little agricultural land. Now, in the whole of East Africa, we are one country that is really blessed with arable land for farming. So for me, I think that we should go back and do what we have have put on paper. If Uganda has been zoned in terms of agriculture, actually at parliamentary level I've seen they've done zoning, but we need to go back down and actualize it so that we get people who are doing farming for commercial and then see what rules of engagement in terms of NADS that they need. Because if you talk about NADS, this NADS coordinator, if you called you come from Rukunjiri?
Sure.
If you call Rukunjiri, I mean, even if you are here, tell me the commercial farmers in Rukunjiri and those that are doing subsistence farming, because there are issues of Edmund. If we were serious, we'd even be having in agriculture what we call holding grounds. People that are handling farming in terms of animal husbandry. Where are your holding grounds when you want to sell cows? I mean, when you want to sell goats, so that we are able to zone the country and be able to, because the policy will only work where you know the inputs and intervention that you want to have them.
Did you follow the operations of what you are hunger in Peso?
So me, I don't ask me about, you know, when you begin, I mean, when you begin personalizing, is it the way that the life program?
To give campaign money, what do you mean? You design the money, these facilities are not to give to particular people to become campaign money as well to convert them.
Let me finish on this. That would be a stimulus. If I know, for example, as I conclude, that I come from Mount Elgon and that we've been zoned to grow vegetables, and that at the end of about 3 months, my carrots or cabbages will find a market somewhere, I'll go and grow those cabbages day and night, knowing that my advisor will come and find me there and they'll give me good seeds, because seeds are other politics altogether, the seed industry and research, and I'll be able to deliver them to a point X so they are picked to the market. But as long as I've not zoned this country,
and as long as
and we have not linked it to the market, we shall come and talk about nuts until the cows, until the goats. I don't know, me, I come from a place where there are no cows. There is always chicken. Until the chicken, I come from a chicken community. Until I have chicken, goat road. So that's how it is.
Let's move on. This is Spectrum. You might.
We don't have very chickens. We don't have land for big things like cows. And
this is Spectrum. You might not be able to call it that, but you can send it
vegetables on the road.
You manage from there.
To 7197.
I don't know.
Send a message to 7197. That's type of Spectrum. Question, message, or comment, send to 7197 or via the Facebook page. That is Spectrum Debate. Marriage and the divorce bill. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Talk to us about the fireworks. From where you come from.
You see, I was in Kalungu as a guest of honor for Women's Day, and the people that spoke before me were really very negative about the marriage and divorce bill. But I've had the honor to read the laws about marriage and family before, and even how they've been harmonized in this new bill. So when I got up to speak, I just said, let's read the bill and see what works for us and not as a community in terms of culture, but what type of religion. Before I left Kalungu, I was in the paper saying that I run a marriage on Skype. So I live in another home and my spouse lives in another place. So first of all, the marriage on Skype. So first of all, people that are talking about this bill, those of us that have read this bill,
the romance of internet.
Those of us that have read this bill and are able to explain the progressive clauses in that bill, because this bill is more than 120 clauses. We've received a lot of bashing because of the few clauses that were pulled out, and the media has had its day in demonizing the bill. So I don't know how we will go, but of course I was not around, as you all know, but when I got back, the airwaves, the communities had really been poisoned about how bad this bill is. And I dare say even the president has written a 21-page document explaining areas of what he thinks are not comfortable, and people have picked it up and said, you know, even the president does not support the bill. But this bill, in my humble opinion, and I hope that I'll not be have in other pictures, the albums about, you know, they personalize. Those of us are talking about the bill in terms of what our own home lives are like, which is really unfortunate. So, but I think that we need a law that supports safety and space for families, because statistics have shown that there are people out there that are suffering. I do not mind reviewing the clauses that contravene or interfere with our cultures and our religion, because I'm also religious and I belong to a culture. But we should not blind ourselves from the fact that we need a law that regulates people that are really vulnerable and that are suffering abuse within a domestic sphere. That should be the principle.
How should we do it?
That's why the bill is out here. So the way we are packaging it is the way the problem is, and the way even the media has taken it. You know, of course, the media say, "Oh, we know we are a mirror of what's happening in the." But we are part of the media, so we know how the media can crowd something and it treats the message. So there are about 6 clauses that are problematic. I don't have answers for them. I really think that as a country we can renegotiate them and withdraw them. One of the clauses is on the issue of marital rape.
Yes. An MP said she enjoys it very much, together with the girls in her village.
I've heard that. I have heard that. But the issues of marital rape, because we have cases of women that have just delivered and they are forced when they go back home into the sexual relationship with their spouses, and then they open up.
A doctor from Mulago denied that. He said they don't have a single study.
Uganda is not about Mulago. We have cases that we can produce.
Where will they get witnesses in case?
The second issue that is of contention is the issue of what they are calling cohabitation.
Yes.
That many relationships in Uganda go under what we are calling cohabitation. That somebody, God forbid, that I'll go with Romshana again, and we live together without that we live together for 10 to 20 years without any formal setting of any legal arrangement, either civil or cultural or faith. So, and then I have children, and then Romshana wakes up one morning and says, like, you go. So they would like to see how we can help these marriages in the event that the relationship goes bad, when you live together for so many years and you have built family together and stuff like that, and yet you're not provided for in the law. But the challenge is we are only the bill only provides for the event that the marriage has gone bad. It is silent on how
when it's working.
When it is working. So there are 6 of them of that type which are sensitive and they border on our cultural practices, but also border on our religious and faith practices. But my issue is, Edmund and colleagues, is that these are the clauses that we can amend or review. But I would like to plead with you guys, let's not throw away the bill. We need the bill because it's in good faith. It's a progressive bill. It's good for the family. It's supposed to stabilize the homes and find a way forward for homes.
Morris.
No, I do agree with Honorable Lydia Wanyoto on one point, that we should seek a middle ground, a consensus, and see how we can harmonize interests that in that bill, and also the interests of culture, traditions, and who we are. Like I said before, this bill is at the nerve center of who we are, you know, as a people, how we have lived, our own traditions. So that has to really be harmonized. On the issue of cohabitation, you know, there is still a lot of really ambiguity, which I think needs to be worked out within the law. Because when you get married in church, you're given a certificate and entered into the book. When you go to the registrar of marriages in the civil marriage, they register you and enter in a book and even put a date. So for cohabitation really, where is the record? There is no record. So for instance, unscrupulous people you can date a woman for 2 days.
They will use tattoos.
You can date a woman for 1 week. Next day she's in court and she hires and parades a cartel of, you know, these hired witnesses, and they say, we know they have been living together, and all of a sudden you have problems. So the issue of record and some sort of how we need to work out, it's not very clear in the bill. And of course, marital rape, I also think it's a pity that it happens, and it's bad. And it should, if it happens, you know, especially for, like Lydia said, after, you know, it should not happen. it should not happen at all. So we must find ways of, and those ways may not only be legal, by the way. I think we could also look at other issues like counseling, like religious intervention in guiding some of those couples. And for me, that's where even the emphasis, elders forums, and for me that is where the emphasis should really be. But again, all in all, I do believe that in spite of disagreements, what the promoters of the bill are urging are universal really values and rights. You see, there are some cultures that promote killing of twins, which I think is bad. There are some people who there are some cultures that promote, you know, forced circumcision, which is extremely terrible and uncouth. There are some cultures that do so many things which are really ultra-vires to good values and repugnant. So for me, I do believe that even in our own cultures, we have certain practices that are repugnant that we should do away with, or that we should regulate through law. So I do believe in it.
I was in the CEA, and I saw how this business of women really brought us problems. Because you're talking like a certain leader I want to have some respect for women. Which business of
you see, you must put the body of that woman into to be your daughter.
Let's now tell the truth. This country needs to know that all of these are aimed, what you call the emancipation of women was hijacked by these elites.
Why are you pointing at
my
me?
neighbor? They are eating on behalf of my mother in the village. And when it comes to voting, they vote like a mob. And I saw them in the CA. Even in this parliament, when you were clearing Mama and the others, no, this one he never saw. Yes, all of them they vote like a mob. Now, this bill is aimed at this, the third round, because it's aimed at looking for these votes for these women, from these women, pampering them around. But they are pampering a specific class of women. The elite, they are not even, it's not even designed. That's why it's being rejected in the villages. Then too, the proponents of this bill are not good examples. I raised it the other day here, that you cannot choose, there is no MP that you admire for your daughter to emulate. Then they are also westernizing marriage, because there are problems in the west of the business of marriage. And you see, Mchiga, a person who has taken his warrant, when you are saying, as a woman, you are saying, as a man, I shouldn't go out. I shouldn't, because when I go out, you say I'm cheating on you. Two, this modern woman wouldn't want to have you marry another woman. Now you have taken your right, you come home.
Because of the commitment.
You come home and the woman doesn't want to give you. She doesn't want you to go outside. She doesn't want to give you here. So now you turn her, and then she's sleeping with you, inciting you, because sometimes some of them don't even. Yeah, she incites you. Then you pick a network she doesn't want, and you have taken her network. You move on her.
Language I have not heard before. Nicholas Opiyo, very briefly before we move to Kenya.
Well, I don't want to speak briefly. I want to speak extensively. For the last 15 minutes, I've listened to this submission. Some of them are really unfortunate. They don't address, like the one for Charles. He's joking. I mean, Charles is very hilarious. But I think avoid to discuss the core mischief that this bill is supposed to address. You know, if you go to who is moving the bill, is she nicely married? That's besides the point. Do we believe in the equality of women and men before, during, and after marriage? Yes, I do. And if you then do, you must do all you can to ensure that women and men have equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal chances before, during, and after marriage. That's exactly what this bill seeks to address. I have had the benefit of doing public consultations to do a peace process. We had the issue of amnesty. So you have this mob chorus consultations devoid of facts and details of a 148 clauses bill. You ask them, do you like this bill? It is no. That's exactly what the MPs are doing. Okay. But if you begin to go to the specifics, do you want a woman battered in a marriage? Do you want a woman to have forceful carnal knowledge in a marriage? The answers are no. If then they are no, then this bill becomes an important bill in addressing that lacuna. Right. What I do agree, though, is that you must then provide a structure for evidential values. If you're talking about marital rape, you then must begin to think about, yes, if that then occurs, what is the standard of proof, the process of proof? And in my view, I think, instead of deleting it, we actually should propose a new evidence law for sexual offences, which I think was adequately addressed in the sexual offences bill that Parliament has, for some reason, still refused to pass. If you had a sexual offences bill defining how this offence can be committed, what circumstances this offence can be committed, and if it is committed, what is the effect, how is it proved, what is the effect on marriage, that then helps to answer the question. On cohabitation, interestingly, what is being rejected, cohabitation that was proposed in the bill was not to confer you marital status. It was particularly designed for property rights, property accrued in the process of cohabitation. Picture this, that a woman marries, stays with a man for 20 years, she works, she contributes to money, they buy property,
she goes out with nothing.
They buy land, they then separate for some reason, and she goes out empty-handed.
We have to go back.
How fair can it be?
True, you made it very clear. Just before we go, what do you think is the Kenyan Supreme Court is supposed to rule tomorrow about the Raila Odinga poll dispute? What do you think is going to happen? Give us a scenario.
Well, first I think that the time that is accorded to the Supreme Court, given the volume of arguments, articulate volume of arguments made by counsel before the court, will be inadequate for courts to be able to come up with a reasoned judgment. What I do envisage the court doing is providing a ruling and providing the detail, the reasoning of the ruling much later. The second thing, you can do it in writing much later. We've done it here before. We said, I reserve my detailed judgment, my detailed reasoning for this judgment for a later date. The second thing that I see happening is look, the process was very impressive, very digitalized. The presentation, the manner of conduct of both the bench and the bar was impressive. You know, I was actually following two important court proceedings, the Kenyan Supreme Court and the US Supreme Court, discussing different issues. The quality of submissions, the preciseness. There's a clock that runs before that court. If you're given 5 minutes, if your 5 minutes is up, sit down. Okay? That will give the judges, you know, you can have, lawyers can say lots of nonsense. So if you have time, precise, the issues are very clear, the evidence is very succinct, you actually can then have an opportunity to have a very, very, very clear argument, and then court will decide very quickly. What I do think in terms of outcome the court will do, what I saw that court leaning towards is the qualitative and quantitative analysis of whether the irregularities affected the result of the election. If you do recall in 2001, the Honorable Justice, I followed the argument of lawyers, and I'm deducing that from the arguments of lawyers. The final submissions, if you have them this morning, seems to go towards that direction, the substantiality of the irregularity. You know, they do admit that perhaps there could be some problems.
The court's request for
Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, you're the second player in this matter. You watch these elections from up close in Nairobi. What do you think is going to happen? Very briefly.
Yeah, but of course, like Nicholas has said, that the Supreme Court has made every effort to do both the quantitative and the qualitative analysis of the issue, but the grounds were 0 to very few issues, hardly 3 or 4 of them. So the time is enough for them to deduce whether the electoral process is credible and fair, and that whatever happened was not meant to favor one candidate against the other. And the reading I've picked from both the bench and even through the media and the bar, so that the bench and the bar, is that they seem to have they are satisfied with the way they were handled.
The elections?
No, the process.
Yes.
Of because you can imagine, even when they were tallying, they were repeating 34, Form 34 and Form 36. They were agents of all the candidates in where they were doing tallying, but they were able to bring the results.
So you think analysis will accept the results?
The comments
the outcome
of the bar and the bench, so that they have no. I do not see the candidates.
Do you think that both sides will accept the ruling?
They have committed themselves to that publicly, and yeah, that they will accept.
And their supporters.
And that's the final, because they don't have any other avenues.
Well, supporters, they put in the states.
Supporters are to be managed. Supporters are to be managed, but the principal candidates have made a commitment publicly that they will accept the outcome of the Supreme Court. And this is their judiciary, really, so we have to take them by their word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also Parish on Political and Social Affairs, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Uganda representative of the South African Parliament, Honorable Charles Romushana, former head of political intelligence at State House, Policy Delegate, and Mr. Morrison Wakakamba, Executive Director, Agency for Transformation. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmund. Spectrum will be back on Tuesday. Have a very blessed Easter season.
This chorus seduction of this divine
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.